The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Lord Tennyson, 1809 to 1892. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death rode the 600. Forward, the Light Brigade! Charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward, the Light Brigade! Was there a man dismayed? Not though the soldier knew someone had blundered. Theirs not to make reply, theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, boldly they rode and well, into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell, rode the 600. Flashed all their sabres bare, flashed as they turned in air, sabring the gunners there, charging an army while all the world wondered. Plunged in the battery smoke, right through the line they broke. Cossack and Russian reeled from the sabre stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they rode back, but not the 600. Cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon behind them volleyed and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, while horse and hero fell. They that had thought so well came through the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell, all that was left of them, left of 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made, all the world wondered. Honour the charge they made, honour the Light Brigade, noble 600. End of The Charge of the Light Brigade.
Charge of the Light Irish Brigade by H. Cholmondeley Pennell. I now come to a clever and most amusing little work entitled Puck on Pegasus by H. Cholmondeley Pennell, which was published about 16 years ago by the late Mr. John Camden Hotton. In the original edition, this work was a small quarto with numerous illustrations and a characteristic frontispiece, designed and etched by my dear old friend George Cruikshank. It has since run through numerous editions, and is now included in the series known as the Mayfair Library, published by Chatto and Windus. It contains the following parodies: Song of In the Water, after Longfellow; the Du Chaillu controversy, after the Bongaltia ballads; the Fight for the Championship, after Lord Macaulay; How the Daughters Come Down at Dunoon, after Robert Southey; Was Ever Was, after Tom Moore; Ex Excelsior, after Longfellow's Excelsior; Charge of the Light Irish Brigade, after Tennyson. The incidents referred to in the last mentioned parody have now somewhat faded from the public memory. It is sufficient to say that the warlike behaviour of the one brigade was quite as great a contrast to the action of the other as the parody here given presents to the original poem. Charge of the Light Irish Brigade, not by A.D. T.N. Southward ho, here we go, o'er the wave onward, out from the harbour of Cork sailed the 600, sailed like crusaders thence, burning for Peter's pence, burning for fight and fame, burning to show their zeal, into the gates of Rome, into the jaws of hell, it's all the same, marched the 600. Barracks and tables laid, food for the Pope's brigade, but every Celt afraid gazed on the grub dismayed, twigged he had blundered. Who can eat rancid grease? Call this a room apiece? Silence, unseemly din, prick them with bayonets in, blessed 600. Waves every battle blade, forward the Pope's brigade, was there a man obeyed? No, where they stood they stayed. Though Lamoricière prayed, threatened and thundered, charge! Down their sabres then clashed, and as they turned and ran, sabring the empty air, each of one taking care, here, there, and everywhere, scattered and sundered. Sick of the powder smell, down on their knees they fell, howling for hearth and home, cursing the Pope of Rome, whilst afar shot and shell volleyed and thundered, captured alive and well every Hibernian swell, came back the tale to tell, back from the states of Rome, back from the gates of hell, safe and sound every man Jack of 600. When shall their story fade? Oh, the mistake they made! Nobody wondered. Pity the fools they made, pity the Pope's brigade, nobbled 600. Note: a room for each man and plenty of excellent provisions were amongst the inducements held out to the deluded victims who enlisted in the Papal Brigade to fight against Italian unity. End of Charge of the Light Irish Brigade. Recording by Lucy Perry. The 200 Mechanical Engineers in Dublin, 1865, by William Smith. Of Tennyson's patriotic poems, The Charge of the Light Brigade has always been the most popular, and has consequently been the most frequently parodied. An excellent parody, taken from Puck on Pegasus, was given on page 31. The following are among the most interesting examples which remain to be quoted. The Institution of Mechanical Engineers. On Thursday, August 3rd, 1865, an excursion was made by the members of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers of England to the Dublin Corporation waterworks at the Still Organ and Roundwood Reservoir. The members proceeded from Bray, through the Glen of the Downs, along a portion of the line of pipes, and at the Roundwood Reservoir they were handsomely entertained by Sir John Gray, MP, the chairman of the Waterworks Committee, and by Mr. John Jameson, the deputy chairman. The following parody appeared in a Dublin newspaper a few days later. Dr. Waller, who is mentioned in it, was then the chairman of the Connery Copper and Sulphur Mines in the Vale of Avoca, which were also visited by the engineers. The 200. 9:30, August 3, 9:30 onward. Off to the Vortery Works went some 200. Off to the Vortery Works, where the good water lurks. Down on the Wicklow line, thinking of how they'd dine, toasting with best of wine. Off, with the weather fine, went the 200. Forward, said Sir John Gray, on to the station Bray. There was some delay. Some of the party said, Waller has blundered. But they were wrong to doubt. 43 cars set out. On from the station there, into the mountain air, through Wicklow's mountain air, drove the 200. Arrived at the Vortery stream, inspected each shaft and beam, saw how the men with spade embankments and puddle made, crowds there of every grade, admired and wondered. Gray, like an engineer, explained what was strange or queer. All the works far and near, he showed the 200. Then through the Vortery pipes, as niggers bend to stripes, right through these monster pipes, like string through a bodkin, Sir John led a lot of us, making small shot of us. The first man he caught of us was our London Times, Godkin. Done with the Vortery works, flashed all our knives and forks, to work like some hungry Turks, went the 200. Soup, fish, meat, fowl and ham, ice, jellies, pies and jam. At this wild mountain cram all the guests wondered. Champagne to the right of them, champagne to the left of them, champagne around them, popping and spurting. Toasts then came from the chair, toasting the ladies fair, but not a female there, therefore no flirting. Good wine of every sort, speeches with joke and sport. Then they went back again, but not the 200. Some of them went astray, o'er hills and far away, but, getting home next day, made up the 200. W.S. The initials W.S. probably stand for the name of the late Mr. William Smith, a gentleman well known in Dublin literary circles as the author of many clever parodies, which appeared over the nom de plume of Billy Scribble. End of The 200 Mechanical Engineers in Dublin, 1865. Recording by Lucy Perry. The Half-Hundred of Coals by James Bruton. A good way after A. Tennyson's 600. Up the stairs, up the stairs, up the stairs onward. Joe took, all out of breath, coals, 100. Up he went, still as death, lest they had wondered that I, with a cellar large, bought by the 100. Forward, the light evade, let 'em not know, I said. Glide up as still as death, with the 100. Let them be gently laid, no sound as by earthquake made, when the ground's sundered. You hear, if one should spy, wondering the reason why, I with the shame should die, so crawl up as still as death, with the 100. A cat on the right of him, cat on the left of him, cat at the front of him, what if he blundered? Slipped his foot, clean he fell, came then a horrid yell. Joe looked as pale as death, as down they came pell-mell, all the 100. Out popped the party there, wondering what meant that air, noise on the landing stair. All stood and wondered, dust clouds of coal and coke made them all nearly choke. Oh, such a dreadful smoke, as from the second floor rolled the 100. Voices at the right of him, voices at left of him, voices behind him, questioned and thundered. Shrunk I into my shell. Ah, how my grandeur fell, knowing that, thought as well, I was thus found to buy coals by the 100. How does one's glory fade, when there an end is made? At what the world wondered, ne'er from my mind will fade, that awkward mess we made, of the 100. James Bruton. End of The 100 of Coals. Recording by Lucy Perry. The Doctor's Heavy Brigade. The following parody was given to me about 10 years ago. I have no clue to the year in which it was written, neither do I know by whom it was written, nor where it made its first appearance in public. The Doctor's Heavy Brigade. They would scarcely believe him when he told them that when in Thurso, some time ago, he on one occasion saw 600 people asleep in a church. Speech of Dr. Guthrie, October 26th. O'er their devoted heads, while the law thundered, snugly and heedlessly snored the 600. Great was the preacher's theme, screwed on was all the steam, neither with shout nor scream could he disturb the dream of the 600. Terrors to right of them, terrors to left of them, terrors in front of them. Hell itself plundered of its most awful things, all those unlawful things weak-minded preacher flings at the dumbfoundered. Boldly he spoke and well, all on deaf ears it fell. Vain was his loudest yell, volleyed and thundered. For, caring the truth to tell, neither for heaven nor hell snored the 600. Still, with redoubled zeal, still he spoke onward, and, in a wild appeal, striking with hand and heel, making the pulpit reel, shaken and sundered, called them the church's foes, threatened with endless woes. Faintly the answer rose, proof of their sweet repose, from the united nose of the 600. L'Envoy. Sermons of near an hour, too much for human power. Prayers too, made to match, extemporaneous batch, woefully blundered, with a service of music fit to turn every pew sick. Should it be wondered, churches that will not move out of the ancient groove through which they floundered, if they will lag behind, still must expect to find hearers of such a kind as the 600. End of the Doctor's Heavy Brigade. Recording by Lucy Perry. The Charge of the Black Brigade, 1868. Apropos of the clamorous meeting of the clergy in Freemasons' Hall, December 1868, the Archbishop of York in the chair. 1,439 votes were recorded at the division. The Charge of the Black Brigade. Half a day, sped the clocks onward, while in Freemasons' Hall roared the 600. Frantic the Black Brigade, charge for the church, they said, in the Freemasons' Hall roared the 600. Frantic the Black Brigade, fearful the row they made, some day they'll know too well how they have blundered. Theirs not to hear reply, theirs throat and lungs to try, theirs to bawl low and high, round the Archbishop's chair roared the 700. Cannons to right of him, cannons to left of him, cannons in front of him, shouted and thundered, stormed at with groan and yell, really they stood it well, till they were out of breath, till an earl tried to quell howls by the 100. Flustered the layman's hair, flushed all the clergy were, scaring the waiters there, hooting and hissing whilst York's prelate wondered. Guides of us sinner folk, precept and law they broke, curate and rector spoke, dealing the church a stroke, shaken and sundered. Then they divided and lost the 600. Clergy to right of chair, clergy to left of chair, clergy in front of chair, shouted and thundered, stamping with groan and yell, past any power to quell. They who have roared so well went blessed and out of breath, back to their flocks to tell all that was done by them, nice 1400. When will the scandal fade of the wild row they made? All the world wondered why such a noise was made, all by the Church Brigade, blind 1400. Punch, 1868. End of the Charge of the Black Brigade, 1868. Recording by Lucy Perry.
At the Magdalen ground, et chicanit formis alius iactusque palarum. 1. Drive to the Magdalen ground, soon myself there I found. Balls flew, and ground boys after them blundered. Theirs not at ease to lie, theirs but to field and shy, balls up and mind their eye. If they were out of breath, who could have wondered? 2. Balls to the right of me, balls to the left of me, balls too in front of me, nearly 100. There stood each cricket swell, some of them batted well, smacking the balls about, seldom their wickets fell. I stood and wondered. 3. Thirsty, with elbows bare, bowlers were bowling there, cricket balls through the air whizzed past their heads the while. Muchly I wondered why no one's head was broke, for at each mighty stroke, close past the legs or head of some unconscious bloke, fast the balls thundered, which, had they hit him, would limbs have near sundered. 4. Balls to the right of me, balls to the left of me, balls too behind me, bounded and thundered. Then came a sudden thwack, right on my poor old back. Earthward I tumbled smack. Knocked out was all my breath with this untimely crack. Whether my bones were smashed, I lay and wondered. Ne'er will the memory fade of the large bruise it made, not if 600 years on this earth I stayed. Why crickets ever played, often I've wondered. From Lays of Modern Oxford, 1874. End of At the Magdalen Ground.
Charge of the Fair Brigade. The following puff poetical was taken from the Daily News of January 1878. Charge of the Fair Brigade, with the junior partner's apologies to Mr. Tennyson. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all on the underground line rode the 600. Right, cried the guard of the train, right for the sail, he said. Into the terminus then glide the 600. Forward the bright brigade. Was there a heart dismayed? Not though it seemed too true, someone had fainted. Theirs not to call a fly, Aldgate, the station nigh, theirs but to try and buy. Into the premises came the 600. Counters to right of them, counters to left of them, counters in front of them, dighted and lumbered. Greeted with chair and grace, boldly they entered apace. Into the matter fain, into the sail amain, went the 600. Flashed all their notebooks fair, flashed all the pencils there, noting with all due care purchases rich and rare. All the world wondered. Plunged in the Hibernum sail, pleased with each neat detail. Silken and linen, metre and yardstick fail almost to measure. Then they hark back, but not unencumbered. Counters to right of them, counters to left of them, counters behind them, piled up with wonders. Offered some bargains rare, mute with a great despair. They that had bought so well came from the tempest sail, tired and deadly pale, weary 600. When can their gladness fade? Oh, the good time they had! All the world wondered. Honour the parcels made, honour the draper's trade, noble 600. End of Charge of the Fair Brigade.
The Charge of the Bustle. Forward the big bustle, down the long street rustle, sweeping the street Arab into the gutter. Swells to the right of it, swells to the left of it, cane, stick, and eyeglass, all in a flutter. Loud cries the errand boy, big bustle there, ahoy, and the respectable citizens stare. Reckless of everyone, on goes the haughty one, sweeping past houses, terrace, and square. But look, the lowering sky portends a storm is nigh, while men on all sides gallantly throng. Swells to the right of it, swells to the left of it, blue bustle charges, sweeping along. Ah, 'tis a rainy day, streams flood the muddy way, and the fair ornament cheeky cads hustle. Homeward it now retreats, flies from the crowded streets, safe at last, ah, but not the same bustle. Judy, April 17th, 1872. End of The Charge of the Bustle. Our Boys. On the occasion of the 600th performance of this comedy at the Vaudeville Theatre, the following verses were composed by Mr. Robert Rees. Keep the league, keep the league, keep our league onward. We twain have run apiece nights now 600. Though but a light brigade, not such great guns 'tis said, yet we a play have played nights full 600. Here's your piece, Byron said, take it, friends, undismayed. So we did, for we knew seldom he's blundered. Ours not to talk, but buy, ours not to act, or try. How fared the comedy? Into 2 years we've run, nights now 600. Prophets to right of us, prophets to left of us, prophets in front of us, volleyed and thundered. Wiseacres, shot and shell, may for a time do well. Ne'er in their jaws, so right, ne'er in their mouths that night, boded 600. Flashy, a thing of air, flashy, but very fair. So said these wonders there, stage-wise alarmists, while all who of fun had heard, crushed in the groaning pit, fought through, fought bit by bit. Coster and nobleman laughed at the same old hit, laughed at and wondered. Thought of that night, but not dreamed of 600. Dresses wore spite of us, Scenes waned each night of us, stitches made light of us, severed and sundered. Summers on houses tell, business, though, never fell. Everything turned out well, so we are playing still. Playing each night with will all that is left of us after 600. When shall this fortune fade? No increased charge we've made, herein we blundered. Thanks to all true Estille, thanks to the public will, double 600. These stanzas were circulated among the audience, but were not spoken from the stage. The extraordinary run of Our Boys, which closed in April 1879, will long excite the curiosity and wonder of the theatrical world. Mr. Byron's comedy was produced January 16, 1875, and was played continuously for 4 years, 3 months, and 3 days. This would allow about 1,321 nights, but extra day representations raised the total number of performances to 1,362. Beside this return, the long runs of previous days were completely dwarfed. When Our American Cousin was brought out at the Haymarket, it ran for 496 nights, and the Colleen Bawn went 278, Meg's Diversion 330, and School 381 nights, respectively. End of Our Boys.
The vote of 6 millions. Apropos of the vote for 6 millions, said the Globe, Mr. Gladstone in his speech protested against many of the attacks which had been levelled at him during the debate, and he threatened Mr. Chaplin in particular with his vengeance upon some future occasion, and he quoted, amid the laughter of the House, some doggerel verses which had been sent to him in reference to the vote. These lines, parodying the charge of the Light Brigade, ran thus: "Ring out your battle cry, vote us our war supply. This must we do or die, vote the 6 millions. Theirs not to reason why, ours not to make reply, ours but to say you lie, vote the 6 millions." End of The Vote of 6 Millions.
The Charge of the Rad Brigade by J. Arthur Elliott. By the League, by the League, by the League onward, into the Commons House went the 300. Forward the Rad Brigade, pass this bill quick, he said, into the Commons House went the 300. Forward the Rad Brigade, who is a whit afraid? What though the Tories say we all have blundered? Theirs but to moan and cry, let Jemmy Lowther sigh, and ask Sir Stafford why. Into the Commons House went the 300. Leaguers to the right of them, Whiggites to the left of them, Tories in front of them, shouted and thundered, stormed at with hoot and yell, while weak-kneed Liberals fell. Into the lobby drear, into the House pell-mell, rushed the 300. Flashed all their tongues quite bare, each one his speech to air, crushing the Leaguers there, dishing the Tories while Salisbury wondered. Plunged in the hot debate, those who the rules had broke, Parnell and Dillon, reeled from brave Gladstone's stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they went out, but not the 300. Leaguers to the right of them, Whigs on the left of them, Tories behind them, stamped, roared and thundered, stormed at with hoot and yell, while many a weak one fell. They that had voted well came from the lobby back to the House pell-mell, all that was left of the happy 300. When will they e'er be paid? Oh, the grand vote they gave, Salisbury wondered. Honour the vote they gave. Long live the Rad Brigade, Gladstone's 300. End of The Charge of the Rad Brigade. A Lay of the New Law Courts. Author unknown. Being the experience of officials, counsel, clients, witnesses, and all who do their business in the great legal maze, with apologies to the Poet Laureate. Up the stairs, down the stairs, farther and farther yet, here we come, out of breath, flustered and sundered. Barriers to right of us, barriers to left of us, barriers in front of us, bad words we thundered. Most doors are barred and locked, all sense of safety shocked. Why is our business blocked by those who blundered? Back to the charge we're led, corridors dark we tread, Had we gone heels o'er head, who could have wondered? No friend to say beware, no warning, pray take care. Each step another snare, if one there's 500. Ours not to make reply, ours not to reason why, still we may raise the cry, someone has blundered. End of a lay of the new law courts.
The latest charge. At a meeting in Ireland recently, when Mr. Biggar got up to speak, 600 ladies rose and quitted the room to show their disgust with his conduct as shown in the suit brought against him for breach of promise to marry. On their legs, on their legs, on their legs onward, all with face pale as death, rose the 600. How dare he show his head? Rush from the wretch, they said. Straight to the street beneath strode the 600. Forward the fair brigade, no woman there dismayed, not though each fair one knew Biggar had blundered. His not to reason why, his not to make reply, best take his hat and fly, when with rage out of breath rushed the 600. Married to right of him, single to left of him, widows in front of him, volleyed and thundered. No storm of shot and shell ever silenced men so well. Joe never his tale shall tell, when near an Irish belle, noble 600. Funny Folks, January 1884. End of the latest charge.
The Charge of the Gownsman, a reminiscence of the anti-tobacco lecture. Author unknown. To the star, through the star, up the star staircase, into the assembly room crowded the gownsmen. Someone cried, "Chaff the cad!" Forward they went like mad. No one knew exactly why. All wished a lark to try. Beneath the proctor's eye, into the assembly room, on went the gownsmen. Baccy to the right of them, baccy to the left of them, baccy in front of them, densely surrounds men. Howled at by cad and scout, ordered by proctors out. Still they pressed onwards well, raising a stifling smell, into the Star Hotel. To the assembly room hastened the gownsmen. Flashed every weed alight, showed every gownsman fight, hitting to left and right, checking the proctor and milling the townsman. Flew academic blows, smashing the civic nose. Strong was the smoke and thick, making the lecturer sick. Then from the assembly room, down the stairs, bolted the gownsmen. Peelers to right of them, proctors to left of them, pros on the rear of them, mingled with townsmen. Out of the Star Hotel, those who had smoked so well, through the Turl, through the High, mizzled the gownsmen. Still shall the tale be told when private halls are old, how was that lecture sold by the fierce gownsmen. End of the Charge of the Gownsmen at the Anti-Tobacco League.
The Charge of the Light Ballet by Major Wilson. The following parody was recited by Major Wilson after a banquet given in honor of the anniversary of the birth of Robert Burns at the Caledonian Club, Leadville, Colorado. The Charge of the Light Ballet. Half a leg, half a leg, half a leg onward. All before the footlights danced the 100. Crash went the German band. Soups strewed he stage with sand. All before the footlights danced the 100. Forward the light ballet. Was there a coryphée who couldn't help feeling someone had blundered? Turning on the calcium light glittered each spangled tight. Kicked they with main and might. All before the footlights danced the 100. Bald heads to right of them, bald heads to left of them, bald heads in front of them shouted and thundered. Cynosures of every eye, boldly they kicked and high, regardless of life and limb, into the very sky kicked the 100. Flashed all their fleshings bare, flashed as they turned in air, crazing the bald heads there in orchestra chair, while all the house wondered. On light fantastic toe, pirouette and pas de saut. Premiere and coryphée reeled from the vertigo, shattered and sundered, and then they danced back, but not the 100. Bald heads to right of them, bald heads to left of them, bald heads in front of them shouted and thundered, bravoed the dilettante, while each old Bonfanti, with split raiment and scanty, danced back from the jaws of death, back from the ci Dante, all that was left of them, left of 100. When can their glory fade? Oh, the high kicks they made! All the house wondered. Fling up your big bouquet, bald-headed YMCA. Honor the light ballet. Noble 100. From the Carbonate Chronicle, Leadville, Colorado, January 27th, 1883. End of Charge of the Light Ballet.
Tragic Episode in an Omnibus by Hugh Cayley. Night scene. Last city bus chock full of people. Enter very stout old gentleman. Half a yard, half a yard, half a yard onward, all through that narrow way, gasping and out of breath, yet never pondered. Right, Bill, the bus cad said, 'bout time we were in bed. All through that narrow way, still he strode onward. Though light began to fade, was there a man dismayed? Not though each row well knew some one had blundered. There's not to make reply, there's not to reason why, there's to sit tight and try to look stouter, broad and high, as he came onward. Sneerers to right of him, frowners to left of him, scowlers in front of him, curses 100. Words that no man could spell, boldly strove he and well, all through the narrow way, tumbling about pell-mell, still on he wandered. To threats he gave no care, worrying the poor man there, as standing he eyed them while the bus rolled and thundered. Wrapped in his dark brown cloak, right through that line he broke. 'Twas then that boot and shoe thought it a feeble joke, corns nearly sundered, for he turned back again, seeing he'd blundered. Sneerers to right of him, frowners to left of him, scowlers behind him, curses 100, words that no man could spell. How he got out no one can tell, back through that narrow way, back from that beastly cell, moaning the toil and time, unwittingly squandered. Can his bumps be repaid? Won't he be ever afraid Of busses? I wondered. Honour the try he made, honour the stones he weighed, as he limped homeward. From Cribblings from the Poets by Hugh Cayley, Jones and Pigott, Cambridge, 1883. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Michael Drayton on the Battle of Agincourt. The Charge of the Light Brigade is still one of the most popular of Tennyson's poems, in spite of its many faults and defective construction. Some of its lines are indeed ridiculous, whilst many are ungrammatical, but the metre is pleasing, and the words have the ring of the battle about them. Tennyson, however, can claim no credit for these merits, having boldly appropriated them from Michael Drayton's poem on the Battle of Agincourt, in which the following lines occur. They now to fight are gone, armour on armour shown, drum now to drum did groan, to hear was to wonder, that with the cries they make the very earth did shake, trumpet to trumpet spake, thunder to thunder. Several parodies of the Charge of the Light Brigade remain to be quoted, in addition to those already given. Indeed, this poem appears to possess a peculiar attraction for imitators. End of Michael Drayton on the Battle of Agincourt. The Light Cavaliers Charge. The following parody was written on the occasion of a lecture on light, having been given in Horncastle by the late Dr. H.G. Ward. The Light Cavaliers Charge. With half a score rings bedight, through the great lecture room staggered Professor Light. He had been asked to speak, 5th of December bleak. Could he deny his squeak? Had he not heaps of cheek? as on the dais swaggered Professor Light. Kinsfolk to right of him, kinsfolk to left of him, buttons in front of him, listened and wondered. Conceited without a doubt, sing-song he brought it out. Had he not learnt to spout, rolling his eyes about, amongst the 200? Was not the lecture good, his for great minds the food? See how erect he stood, teaching his townsmen, whilst Horncastle wondered. Surrounded by kith and kin, did he not give it in? Light was the very thing whereon our faith to pin. Misled by Forbes Winslow, the doctor who blundered, then he sat down amid cheers from 200. Kinsfolk to right of him, kinsfolk to left of him, no one behind him listened and wondered. Other orbs, great and small, took fresh light, one and all, in the great lecture hall, from Light's special envoy. These were but few indeed of the 200. Honour, Professor bold, long shall the tale be told, aye, when our babes be old, how he enlightened us. End of the Light Cavaliers' charge.
The charge of the Court Brigade. 1. Half a yard, half a yard, half a yard onward. Through the first crush room pressed the 400. Forward, the fair brigade! On to the throne, they said. On to the presence room crushed the 400. 2. Forward, the fair brigade! Was there a girl dismayed? Even though the chaperons knew someone had blundered. Theirs not to make complaint, theirs not to sink or faint, theirs, but words cannot paint, half the discomfiture of the 400. 3. Crowds on the right of them, crowds on the left of them, crowds all in front of them, stumbled and blundered. On through the courtier-lined rooms most tremendous grind, into the presence room, leaving their friends behind, past the 400. 4. Flushed all their faces fair, flashed all their jewels rare, scratched all their shoulders bare, thrusting each other while outsiders wondered. Into the presence room, taking their turn, they come, some looking very glum, over trains sore sundered. Kiss hand, and outwards back, fagged the 400. 5. Crowds to the right of them, crowds on the left of them, crowds all in front of them, stumbled and blundered. Back through more courtier-lined rooms, oh tremendous grind! Debutante thirsty pined for ice or cup of tea. No sofas horsehair lined, not a chair or settee. Poor dear 400. 6. Mothers to rage gave vent, husbands for broughams sent, while at mismanagement both sorely wondered. Not till the sun had set, not till the lamps were lit, home from the drawing-room got the 400. 7. Some, I heard, in despair of getting stool or chair, took to the floor and there sat down and wondered. Now, my Lord Chamberlain, take my advice again, when there's a drawing-room, shut doors and don't let in more than 200. Punch, May 30th, 1874. End of The Charge of the Court Brigade.
The Battle of Bartlemy's. Snowballs to right of them, snowballs to left of them, snowballs in front of them, shattered and sundered. Forward the Blue Brigade, run 'em in, who's afraid? Less easy done than said, not in the least dismayed. Every bold student stayed, and at the Blue Brigade volleyed and thundered. Flashed every truncheon bare, helmets were tossed in air. Robert gets quite a scare, while every student there hooted and pelted. Stormed at with jeer and yell, truncheon and helmet fell. Back rushed they all, pell-mell, how the force wondered. Many a pretty maid, down in the area shade, weeps for her bob betrayed, weeps for her blue brigade, knowing they blundered. Funny Folks, December 25th, 1875. End of the Battle of Bartlemy's. Charge of the Light Brigade No. 2 at the Alexandra Palace banquet given to the survivors of the Battle of the Balaclava on October 25, 1875. Paying sight left and right, crowds pressing onward. Sharp Alexandra board dines the 200. Free passes grant them all, veterans short and tall. Sharp Alexandra board, profits will not be small, dines the 200. Go it, the Light Brigade, toastmaster, sore dismayed, queered by these heroes' chaff, boggled and blundered. Theirs not to speechify, still less to make reply, theirs but to drain all dry. Into the drinkables walked the 200. Bottles to right of them, bottles to left of them, bottles in front of them, while the band thundered. They knew no Captain Cork, boldly they went to work. After the eatables fell to their knife and fork, thirsty 200. A la Russe might surprise, still they knew joints and pies, clearing the dishes there, relevés and entrees, while scared waiters wondered. Then plunged in back a smoke, glasses and pipes they broke, comrades long sundered. Big with old lark and joke, gleefully met again, jolly 200. Trophies to right of them, trophies to left of them, cardigan's charger's head, piously sundered. Back they reeled from the spread, straight as they could, to bed. They that had dined so well, nothing to pay per head, happy 200. When shall their glory fade? Oh, what a meal they made, Cockneydom wondered. Honour the charge they made, bravo the Light Brigade, hearty 200. Punch, November 6th, 1875. End of Charge of the Light Brigade at the Alexandra Palace banquet, 1875.
On the rink. Half a mile, half a mile, half a mile onward, on to the skating rink came the fair trio. Skates for the fair trio, oil them well before they go. Over the smooth rink slide the fair trio. Forward the fair trio. Was a false step made? No. Not though they all knew someone had tumbled. There's but to give a sigh, there's but to let him lie, there's but to pass him by. Away over the rink glide the fair trio. Admirers to right of them, admirers to left of them, admirers in front of them, wondered and wondered. Outside edge, and never fell. Boldly they skate and well. Treble threes and Qs, any step you choose. Over the smooth rink glide the fair trio. Flashed all their eyes so bright, flashed as they turned in air, wounding every fellow there with a glance to left and right, other girls envying. Waltzing and Mercury stroke, straight through the line they broke, whirling and twirling, light as the fairy folk, twisting and turning. Then they skate back, but not alone the fair trio. Admirers to right of them, admirers to left of them, admirers on all sides of them, wondered and wondered. Refreshed with coffee and tea, sweet cake but no cherry bee. They whom none excel, they who deserve so well, they who no scandal tell, away over the rink glide the fair trio. When can their beauty fade? Oh, the grand show they made! All the rink wondered. Applaud all the skill displayed, admire the fair trio, charming fair trio. The Figaro, April 10th, 1876. End of On the Rink. How 100 guests met their death. There seems to be hardly a single ailment not traceable to the poulterer or butcher. Daily Paper. Half a duck, Guests, do not shirk ye. Eat, 'tis the Christmas luck, eat the whole turkey. Little thought they of pain, filled they the plate again. Why would ye not refrain? On to death, onward. Death was to right of them, death was to left of them, death right in front of them, death in that conger. Long did they feast and well, how long I cannot tell, till they began to yell, cannot eat longer. Ate they the tables bare, swept they the platter clear, while the host wondered. Wrapped in the pudding's smoke, right through its midst they broke, mince pies were sundered. Then sank they back, but not the same 100. Judy, January 16th, 1884. End of How 100 Guests Met Their Death.
Half a League Tea Advertisement. Author unknown. The charge of the Light Brigade was thus imitated by a Birmingham tea dealer. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, into Gant's tea shop walk many hundred. Tea is the people's cry, which is the kind to buy? Gant's at 2 shillings try, say many hundred. Tea men to the right of us, tea men to the left of us, grocers all round us, find they have blundered. End of Half a League Tea Advertisement.
The Last of the Light Brigade by Rudyard Kipling. There were 30 million English who talked of England's might. There were 20 broken troopers who lacked a bed for the night. They had neither food nor money, they had neither service nor trade. They were only shiftless soldiers, the last of the Light Brigade. They felt that life was fleeting, they knew not that art was long, that though they were dying of famine, they lived in deathless song. They asked for a little money to keep the wolf from the door, and the 30 million English sent 20 pounds and 4. They laid their heads together that were scarred and lined and grey. Keen were the Russian sabres, but want was keener than they. And an old troop sergeant muttered, "Let us go to the man who writes the things on balaclava the kiddies at school recites." They went without bands or colours, a regiment 10 file strong, to look for the master singer who had crowned them all in his song. And, waiting his servant's order, by the garden gate they stayed, a desolate little cluster, the last of the Light Brigade. They strove to stand to attention, to straighten the toil-bowed back. They drilled on an empty stomach, the loose-knit files fell slack. With stooping of weary shoulders, in garments tattered and frayed, they shambled into his presence, the last of the Light Brigade. The old troop sergeant was spokesman, and, "Begging your pardon," he said, "you wrote to the Light Brigade, sir, here's all that isn't dead. And it's all come true what you wrote, sir, regarding the mouth of hell, for we're all of us nigh to the workhouse, and we thought we'd call and tell. No, thank you, we don't want food, sir, but couldn't you take 'em right? A sort of to be continued and see next page of the fight. We think that someone has blundered, and couldn't you tell 'em how? You wrote we were heroes once, sir, please write we are starving now." The poor little army departed, limping and lean and forlorn, and the heart of the master singer grew hot with the scorn of scorn. And he wrote for them wonderful verses that swept the land like flame, till the fatted souls of the English were scourged with the thing called shame. O 30 million English that babble of England's might, behold there are 20 heroes who lack their food tonight. Our children's children are lisping to honour the charge they made, and we leave to the streets and the workhouse the charge of the Light Brigade. End of The Last of the Light Brigade by Rudyard Kipling, Recording by Emma Charlotte. End of Parodies on Tennyson's Charge of the Light Brigade. Edited by Walter Hamilton.